What's up, everybody? I'm Jayson Visenberg.
And I'm Michael Visenberg.
Welcome to Viseland. What is going on, Viselanders, Viselandics, Viselanderitas,
Icelandians.
Viselandians for the people up north? Mikey, what's going on? What's been happening for you this week?
Not too much. A lot of basketball, of course. Fred VanVleet went for 54 points, the most ever by an undrafted player. As you had mentioned earlier, he had signed the richest contract ever by an undrafted player and is living up to that. He had 11 three-pointers in this game as well. So, yeah, big shout out to Fred VanVleet, FVV. It was huge game today against Orlando. It was 11 of 14 from three, 9 of 9 from the free throw line, 17 of 23 overall. Also had 3 blocks and 3 steals for a guy who is basically like 6 foot even, maybe. So yeah, Fred VanVleet.
And sometimes playing as like another small guard, like with Kyle Lowry.
Yeah. Tonight, Kyle was still playing, but yeah, Norman in the starting lineup. OG Anunoby has been hurt. Pascal Siakam with 8 assists, but only 12 points. So yeah, Fred carrying a huge offensive load and having a star performance, which is kind of what this episode is about, since there's been so much talk about it.
Well, he's doing this at a very, very meaty time. So what we're going to be doing is, All-Star voting did go live. They've been talking back and forth on what the actual game might look like. It's funny that they're doing all the voting without actually like booking the game, booking the game and like guaranteeing it's going to happen. I guess, worst case scenario, it's kind of more of just like an honor that you were chosen amongst, by fans / peers. But we're talking about predicting, what we feel is going to be the All-Star teams. So
Yeah.
Word on the street for this year is, again, still figuring it out, but it's going to be, traditional East-West is what it looks like. But at the end, just to throw in a little excitement, we're going to do our own playground picks. Mikey's got LeBron. I'm picking Giannis, and we are going to pick our teams, and we're going to see whose squadron is superior.
Yeah, we're assuming those guys are going to be the captains again.
I can't see why not. They're like the best people to build a team around.
Yeah, that as well. They're fun pieces to build around, and they were like 2 of the stars of last year's game as well. And yeah, we just thought it's been the talk of the NBA really, with this season being so strange as it is. Like, the other crazy part is the game, I guess, would be like March 7th, which seems really soon. And like, I don't even think that would be like, if they're planning on having the 72 game season, which they seem to be, though when I check like schedules, like the schedules are only set up until like March. But yeah, they it looks like they're at least talking about having an All-Star game. Us at Viseland are advising that they do not. We're saying just skip it this year. It's a game for the fans. It's usually with fans. You usually have the Rising Stars Challenge. It would be too bad if they miss that. Like, it's going to be too bad for the past couple years for McDonald's All-Americans, for people at the Nike Hoop Summit, for the Jordan Brand Classic, for all of these events. We're just advising, give them the honor, but don't play the game.
No, it's only life.
We don't think they should play the All-Star game, but they're probably going to.
Yeah,
and
they don't listen to us on these takes.
Yeah. I'm not powerful enough. I don't control a lot of things. But we can control who we pick for the All-Star game and who we would give the honor to, and then who we would draft in this situation as well. So
I can also agree, if they don't do the game, I mean, the least they can do is just send them a very nice sticker, letting them know that they've been appreciated by the fans. That's always a good little thing to have. But no,
sticker of appreciation.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like with the NBA also struggling with COVID, you're going to take like a bunch of players from separate cities, like fly them all together. Like, you're telling me fans that people aren't going to want to be around that. Like, it's all a very difficult. Like, yeah.
As we saw yesterday with the whole courtside Karen whole kerfuffle. Yeah, we having fans there hasn't necessarily been the greatest thing. And, they need to obey the rules and wear masks and not flip out if LeBron swears at your husband, who I'm guessing probably said something that was must have caused this reaction. So yeah, it was just let me just rant quickly for 1 second here also. I never understood yelling and swearing at players. Never got it. If you want to boo, if you want to cheer, yay, boo. I get having the little fun, calling Nate Robinson, Gary Coleman, or the stuff in college. But in the NBA, if you're swearing and ranting at players and then you expect them to say nothing back and they can't have any ability to do that, that's ridiculous. I don't agree with that. And I think you should be scared for your life. Acting like some tough guy trying to say something to a player, you should be scared for your life when they look at you and say, hey, I heard that. And, let's see what would happen if this were under different circumstances.
No, totally. I forget what former player was.
Vernon Maxwell, man.
He did talk about, it's you don't go to your accountant's office and yell at him like he sucks.
Yeah.
If you start swearing at him, he's probably not going to. And again, the only way I would also talk smack to LeBron is if I was 6'10" and bigger than him, which is very unlikely in this lifetime, possibly my next 3 or 4 lifetimes at least. So courtside Karen, she got her comeuppance, pretty excellent, because I know we've sat pretty close to a couple games and seen some very obnoxious fans as well.
Absolutely.
In our day.
You remember Grant Hill telling off that idiot who stole the shirt from you?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It was during we were at Raptors game, we were under the basket, and the guy was heckling Grant Hill. Grant Hill basically, I think it was Joe Dumars actually told him to fuck off.
I think he said something about Joe Dumars, and Grant Hill told him.
Yeah, there was definitely that transpired, and then later in the game when they were throwing out T-shirts, there was one that was literally magnetically coming towards me, and then this older guy came up and scrapped it in front of my 12-year-old face, and I called him a jerk later to my.
Well, you said some jerk stole a T-shirt from me, and he was right behind us. He's like, hey, yeah, I guess I am.
And now, he lives in a suburb and he manages a very unsuccessful Dairy Queen. So hopefully that guy's suffering every day.
I actually think he was a crack addict that started selling pillows. But okay, let's move on to the All-Stars.
We've all seen it.
Let's we'll start with the conference that seems to have, I guess, not as much tension in the last few spots, but certainly some players both conferences have always a ton of players who are under possible consideration, and we're going by starters. We're not going by who we feel, because I guess the way you would used to choose starters is to just go by who you felt would win the popular vote. And yes, sometimes there would be an Allen Iverson barely playing for the Pistons or something like that, but most of the time it would usually, for as much as people complain about the fan voting, usually they at least would pick deserving All-Stars. They may not have deserved to start the All-Star game, but they usually pick deserving All-Stars. And luckily that's usually been the case with the new system, which takes into account the fan vote, the coaches vote, and the player vote. And let's also say the coaches don't necessarily always choose the right people to be reserves, and that used to just be their thing. And there would always be some people that were snubbed and things like that. So yeah, it's not necessarily easy choosing these teams. We're doing a little bit of predicting here about record and stuff like that, but yeah, we'll get into it. And I think the starters for the Western Conference right now, they're not exactly straightforward, but I've got a pretty good idea.
So let's start with the front court.
Yeah, so front court, the player that just won Player of the Month for the Western Conference was Nikola Jokic, and he absolutely deserved it. He, I think, is a legitimate MVP candidate. So we have Nikola Jokic starting at center. It's just 3 forwards, I know, but we have centers because they are deserving of starting. So yeah, Nikola Jokic. And the 2 forwards I went with, one is LeBron James, who is an MVP candidate in his own right. And I think the Lakers are going to have a great record. LeBron's been playing well. Still looking like he is, if he's not the best player in the NBA, he's amongst them.
He's also not
And
falling off on respect levels from everybody, from the coaches, the players.
Exactly. So LeBron still captain of the LeBron team if they were to do the draft. And then the other forward spot, I am giving it to Kawhi Leonard. Paul George started the season off really, really well, and I know people were calling him an MVP candidate. I think Kawhi has picked up the helm and is their best player, and as he was last year, and seems to be so this year as well. So that's the last forward spot I'm giving as far as a starter. And we'll obviously have some more players on the bench. Then the two guard spots, heavily contested, obviously, as far as who a starter should be. I gave it one to Damian Lillard, who is actually, I believe, leading the Western Conference in scoring right now. And the Blazers got a nice win today over the Washington Wizards, who obviously aren't playing very well, but the Blazers were severely undermanned and ended up kind of at least starting off the game, blowing them out, and ended up at least winning the game. But yeah, still, like, they're right now, the Blazers seem to be kind of like more fighting towards the bottom of the Western Conference, as opposed to being in near the top where I kind of thought they might be, and how when they're a fully functioning team, they sort of look like. But I still feel like Damian Lillard gets that starting spot if you're doing it on merit. And then as tough as it is to have Luka Doncic as the other guard, I still do. The only reason it's tough is because Dallas has been such a train wreck so far. And like for a team that had the best ever offensive rating in NBA history last year, their offense is struggling. They are 20th out of teams in the NBA this year in terms of offensive rating, but Luka's still been fantastic, and I don't think you can put too much blame on him. What are your feelings on the starters? Like, would you kind of lean anywhere else, or?
Yeah, I agree. And again, this is not me, and if it was up to me, Dame would start. I mean, obviously, huge fan. I think he's playing great. I'm thinking Steph, just because that's, the respect level that he gets.
Yeah, I think I was looking just at their seasons, and I think they're very comparable. The records are comparable. If I were to still build a team, I think I would probably take Stephen Curry, and I know that's sacrilegious coming from somebody who watches as much Blazers as I do and has a very high respect level for Damian Lillard. But I honestly think on merit this year, Dame has been playing better.
Yeah, but I just think the politics of how the league.
But we're kind of throwing that out and naming the starters here. But yeah, I absolutely agree that certainly is a very solid possibility. And let's just move on to the reserves with that.
I'll also say this about Dame, that I'm just very happy he's past that threshold of when there were those years where it's is he an all-star? Is he not an all-star? Even though he was, and then would get no, get out of the way. Damian Lillard is playing in an all-star. He is perennial. Give it to him.
For sure. And he immediately, that's the funny thing, because he did immediately make the all-star team in his second year and even his third year, but then he has a couple of years where he doesn't make the all-star team, where he plays significantly better in both of those years also. It's so crazy. And
obviously Western Conference is guard heavy, but it's
very guard heavy. But yeah, Dame was just always he was an all-star. And I get that the Blazers probably had some struggles and everything there, but as we see, we're going to have some players who are playing exceptionally well on teams that are struggling, and not many of them. Let's also just keep it real. Being on a winning team is usually a pretty important part of being an all-star. And if you're putting up these huge numbers on teams and you're not a perennial all-star, like that could be a reason that you're left off of the team. But yeah, I think I don't think there are any arguments that all of those guys are like locks to make the All-Star game. But yeah, let's move on to the Western Conference reserves. And I'm doing this in like, I feel like the All-Star rules are kind of like rigid, even when they're doing the draft and everything. So it's usually the way it works for reserves is it's usually point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, and then 2 wild card spots. And so that's the way that I did this. I guess, position now is kind of loose, but yeah, I think most of these guys are in that position. So obviously at point guard, I do have Stephen Curry. So don't worry, I still have Steph Curry there, and he's still playing excellent basketball. I was watching the game against the Celtics, and he was freaking-tastic as always, or for the most part as always. And so shooting guard, I have Donovan Mitchell, and the Jazz are amongst the NBA leaders in terms of best record. They were killing the Pistons tonight, and Donovan was having a fantastic game. Missed a couple games due to a concussion, and he had a rough week last week as somebody that had him on their fantasy team, but he still is very good. And
he also had Shaq tell him he's not a great player, which is obviously always a lot of fun to hear.
Like, I mean, I get like reaching that next level and everything, but yeah, what Shaq said was garbage.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's hard to
take on that.
Yeah, it's hard to respond when someone says that to your face. You're kind of like, thanks.
Oh yeah, I'm very much in agreement that it was a very stupid thing to say, and I don't think it is anything that like was supposed to drive him, and I don't know the answer that Shaq was seeking out of it. It's like, I'm gonna do my best, Shaq. Thank you. Like, thanks for saying I suck. Yeah, so small forward going Paul George, who did not make the All-Star team last year, was obviously hurt and at some points, and he's been a lot better this year. Then a player who was kind of tough to leave off of the starters and is, I think, one of the favorites for Defensive Player of the Year, and I believe still, like, if he's not the Lakers' leading scorer, he and LeBron are like neck and neck there. Anthony Davis at power forward. I still feel like Anthony Davis is like optimally a center, but he's just somebody that you can pretty much play anywhere, and he is one of the best players in the NBA, and was, of course, tantamount to the Lakers winning the NBA championship last year. Is he?
Yeah.
No. Okay. So LeBron is still leading the Lakers in scoring. Oh man, yeah. So LeBron is the scoring leader this year. Obviously, like a different setup for the Lakers, and I feel like they, luckily, with bringing in guys like Dennis Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell, like they don't necessarily have to score as much this year. So I think they've kind of enjoyed that. But yeah, both still having fantastic seasons in their own right.
And when it needs to get when it needs to get done.
Yeah.
Those
yeah, you know who to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have those guys. And
sorry, I thought we were talking about Alex Caruso, but yeah, LeBron and AD are pretty good as well.
Yeah, Caruso's been like kind of in their closing lineups though. It's been going pretty well. And so center Rudy Gobert. Jazz are playing fantastic basketball. So we have 2 All-Stars from the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz. Not a surprise.
Yeah, they're all those teams, and yeah, like Rudy just getting some pretty.
So like the Jazz are one of the best defenses in the league. He's that post anchor. Did get lit by Nikola Jokic this weekend, which was kind of fun. But
yeah, Jokic did go to town, but I mean, yeah, he's gonna go to town against everybody. But yeah,
yeah, exactly. Jokic is just having this phenomenal season, and if the season ended today, like Nikola Jokic, I think would probably be the MVP.
It's also he's 1.5. He's getting 8.5 assists, but he's like the closest to like a center ever averaging the triple double. Because it's all been guards.
Oh no. Yeah, I guess we'd need to know like back in the day. Well, Wilt Chamberlain came close that one year. Led the league in assists. I think it was like most assists rather than like assists per game. But yeah, and then I think we'd have to know like defensive stats because I'm guessing like Russell and Chamberlain must have
They didn't count
stats.
like blocks and like rebounds as much, but like either way, like in this era, like
yeah, in this era,
yeah, for sure. Double like for the season, yeah, that would be insane.
So for the wild card spots, the Charlie Kelly Classic, we have Devin Booker from Phoenix, who was a first-time All-Star last year, made it as an alternate, but luckily made the game and deservedly so. And the fact that Phoenix is winning games this year, and Devin Booker is that guy. Amazing shot last night. I don't know if you saw him like coming off that screen, just running full speed. Chris Paul setting up the play exceptionally well. So yeah, that was a great shot to win, and he's just been, like after a kind of a slow start, he's back up to his kind of scoring range. And then the last wildcard spot, and this is going to be heavily contested, but I'm going to go with Zion. And I know the Pelicans aren't playing very well, and yeah, like for it just seems like it's been kind of a rough go for them. I'm assuming they get a little better. But yeah, it's right now, even for as poorly as they're playing, like they're not necessarily like a great deal behind any of those other teams there that have potential all-stars. And I just think Zion's going to keep getting better, and his efficiency right now around the basket is amazing. And he's somebody that you really want to see in an all-star game.
Yeah, as far as like people, yeah, you want to have him on that team. It's definitely, he's that guy like quarters 1 through 3 when they're just throwing ridiculous alley-oops and stuff. Like, definitely want to see something special.
Yeah. So also we have a few guys that we're not calling them snubs. I know that
Zion would be like, but just looking back on it, Zion's the only first timer that we've had so far in the West.
Yeah, true enough. But yeah, we're calling these players obviously like alternates or guys who would fill in for anybody that was like hurt or anything like that, and kind of given like a rough idea of where we may have them. But I think the guy who is pushing Zion for the wild card spot the most is Diarne Fox, who has been absolutely fantastic over the last, like, he's had a really good season, but these last few games he's just kind of gone completely ham. And yes, like they're 10th in the West right now, and just always kind of near like just that like kind of bottom level. But yeah, I just want to go over his last 7 games. He's averaging 28.3 points per game, 8.4 assists to 4 turnovers. But yeah, so 2.1 to 1 assist to turnover, or yeah. And shooting close to 50%, 35% from 3, getting to the line 7 times a game, only shooting 67%. But nonetheless, like they've won 4 of those games. They've actually won 4 of their last 5 games, but he had 2 huge games right before then also. And yeah, so playing really, really well. And I think certainly in contention to be an all-star. A player who was playing like out of his mind well, but unfortunately is hurt and likely out of contention. CJ McCollum from the Portland Trailblazers. He was one of the players that we had named.
Playing at an insane level. Yeah, we had him in our episode of players that probably will get to an all-star team. But yeah, like
I think we had Diarne in there too.
Yeah. But like no injury. He's 100%. I think he's on that team. But yeah, unfortunately, just
I'm not sure. I wouldn't say 100%, but I think like a high level. Yeah, he was just that good. I think it ultimately would have been about him just keeping that same performance.
Yeah.
Which I think was like relatively unsustainable. But he was looking so good, and people were worried about his fitness and like, his conditioning, but man, he was just playing fantastic basketball. He and Dame were so much fun to watch with those new forwards and Nurk, and then it all went to hell, as it has for the Blazers over these last few years.
For a historical look at the Blazers, like every season from 1970 to today.
It all went to hell with Jayson Beisenberg on the Blazers. But yeah. And then, okay, so the last few players, Brandon Ingram, who I think, you could kind of, I wouldn't say it's a coin flip. I think Zion's been like a little bit better, but it's certainly close. And Brandon Ingram was an all-star last year, still playing at a high level. But yeah, I would give the edge to Zion. Christian Wood, I think he's, I highly doubt he makes the game, but I think he's in contention. Like, the guy has just been playing so well. And then, like, Houston, since the trade, has been pretty damn good.
Well, they've been playing well, and it's like it's freed up for him. He's having some pretty big games.
Yeah. Like, right now, they're 10-9. So they would be, I guess, like, technically in the 8th spot. But, yeah, they've been good, man. And, well, I guess the Blazers won tonight, so yeah.
He's getting 20, but he's getting like 20 and 10. I mean, that's.
Oh yeah, for sure. 23.3, 10.7 rebounds. Yeah, he's like last year with the Pistons, he was obviously very good and was expected to be, seen as one of the more interesting free agent signings or like acquisitions, and it's been playing at a really high level. Victor Oladipo's fit in there really well also. And, you have John Wall back, you have Boogie coming in off the bench, and he's missed a few games, but yeah, they've won their last 6 games. Yeah, 3 of them which he missed, but yeah, they've like over the last 3 games still playing at that high level. And, yeah, just been a real mismatch, like as a big guy. And somebody I'm sure Houston would have loved to have had last year. But yeah, he's been really good. So I think just as an honorable mention, and then the last person that we want to mention, who unfortunately missed some time as well, which probably hurts his chances, but his team has been quite good, and that is Ja Morant.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the Grizzlies have been playing pretty well, and Ja seemed to kind of take that next step also. And
yeah, minus injury, yeah, like again, it's one of those things, but luckily, he'll be in the contention, a little talk this year, but then next year, like that's hopefully his year to get it. And
yeah, like Ja's been better. Like, he hasn't been shooting exceptionally well, but he's been inside the arc, like playing at a really high level there. Still a fantastic passer. His analytics just all seem to be better this year. So yeah, he's a player I think who is in contention. He's only played I guess 8 games. With tonight they kind of got shellacked, I think. But I certainly is a player that you would love to see in an All-Star game, and is somebody I think is going to be in an All-Star game very, very soon.
You're calling. I mean, Zion's never going to do it, but then yeah, dunk contest calls for them, but probably not a dunk contest this year. But
just have somebody stand under the basket and see if Ja can dunk on them. Have that have one of those like block shot contests. Like, that'd be kind of like a new angle. Just get a big guy there and just see if somebody can dunk on them. Well, remember, that's where I think Ja would absolutely excel.
Remember that trampoline basketball thing they had on like Spike? It was like slam ball, like
slam ball.
They're like, you're on the trampoline and like Ja's going up, and then you got some guy trying to block that.
Yeah.
Probably an injury.
That sport seemed like just tremendously dangerous.
Oh,
it seemed like an accident, like waiting to happen.
It made like football look like it was like a non-contact sport, because you're falling from a trampoline that you jump on. But moving on, we got the Eastern Conference the lesser of the two conferences usually.
That's what you think.
But this year,
you take a few years off, you see what happens. And one thing we'll say, the Eastern Conference has a ton of guys who are all-star possibilities this year. And they will absolutely have at least, I'm guessing at least one player that's never made the All-Star before. He's playing at a fantastic level, and luckily with somebody that we had mentioned in our potential future All-Stars podcast of Viseland. So yeah, we'll go with the front court and the starters here. And Joel Embiid won the Eastern Conference Player of the Month and has been fantastic and is just a tremendously dominant player and somebody I think Philly just kind of has to hope to build around for at least the next few years. And you just hope that one of these years, they can make a deep playoff run, because I just think Joel Embiid can be quite dominant and has been very dominant this season. Kevin Durant is my another forward, and it's good to see him back in the All-Star game, and I'm sure he's going to, if they have a game, tear it up as he normally does.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the team, we're naming this, if we get to the draft, Team Giannis, and Giannis would be my other choice. Milwaukee hasn't necessarily been their dominant self from last year, but they've still been very good. And right now they are at second in the Eastern Conference behind Philadelphia. And Giannis still playing at a near MVP level, and probably up for being a first, or this year, a lot more competition for that first team All-NBA. So yeah, he certainly has more competition this year, but definitely in the running so far. In terms of guards, going with James Harden, and he has been fantastic since getting to Brooklyn. He was already doing very well with Houston, of course.
Yeah,
I think you have to count both of those towards his All-Star nod here. But yeah, I think if it's on merit, he's one of the best guards in the NBA, and he's currently leading the NBA in assists per game.
Yeah. And he's not afraid, and as we know, also scores at a pretty good clip. So yeah, no, James Harden,
absolutely,
for sure.
It's funny because he seems to be sacrificing the most just in terms of individual offense right now with Brooklyn. And you always think the past few years he's led the NBA in scoring by a pretty wide margin, and I don't think you forget how great of a passer he is, but it's just kind of surprising that he's been the one to sacrifice his offense, even considering the fact that he's playing with these two offensive masterminds who can shoot the absolute crap out of the ball. And then the other guard spot, and I think this is kind of straightforward if you're doing it off merit right now, Jaylen Brown. And it would be his first All-Star game. It seems like he's improved every year he's been in the league. And, people were talking a lot about his contract after he signed it with the Celtics. They talk about his feel, they talk about his shooting, everything like that. It's gotten better. And he has been really, really good this year. So yeah, and with Kemba Walker going down, I know I was a little skeptical of how well the Celtics would do, but I think the reason that they did as well as they have is because of Jaylen Brown. And
even when Kemba came back, it's Tatum missed a few games too. Jaylen Brown,
yeah, absolutely,
super solid rock for
absolutely
the Celtics this year.
So, yeah, Jaylen Brown right now, before tonight, averaging 27.1 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and then he is shooting in ridiculous clip, 44% from three, and 53% from the field.
Yeah.
Just absurd. So yeah, he's playing really, really well right now. You were almost kind of expecting Jayson Tatum to come in and kind of do what he was doing last year after the All-Star break and in the bubble. But Jaylen Brown's really kind of been the guy so far. Like, it's still really close, and I'm still a Jayson Tatum person to my core. When you're talking, like, if you're comparing the two wings, but Jaylen Brown's been fantastic. So yeah, those are the starters for the Eastern Conference. Jace, guessing there's no beef there?
No, none. I think the Eastern Conference is a little bit more straightforward on that. It's really when you get to the bottom is where there's a lot more kind of like names you can see like floating around.
Yeah, and like I wouldn't be surprised if like Jaylen Brown isn't like named the starter and like, it's like Trae Young again or something like that. But I think that if you're going off merit, like that's pretty straightforward. I guess, you could make an argument for like the player who's currently leading the NBA in scoring, but I just feel like James Harden is the better player of the two and obviously on a winning team. Now, when it gets to the reserves, we have Trae Young, who is still playing very well, and Atlanta is at least a better team this year as well. So yeah, like it's not going to be like a thing where Trae Young was on a terrible team last season and still got the starting nod. And I don't remember tons of people complaining about it because Trae Young like deserved to be an all-star. But I think while he hasn't necessarily like taken the next step or anything like that, he's still having a really good season. Bradley Beal, just in terms of like, I think people just feel bad for him at this point. Like, not only does he deserve to be an all-star, like it was crazy last year that Bradley Beal wasn't an all-star and like averaging 30 points per game. And obviously, Washington was not a great team, but yeah, it was just kind of crazy.
This feels like he's just like a tick under 35 a game. Like he's having some big scoring output games. The only unfortunate part is the team is not winning a lot of those games.
Yeah, free Bradley Beal at this point. Like you'd love to see. Like obviously, it seems like he wants to be traded, and I hope he gets the chance. Happened for James Harden, and yeah, you hope it happens for Bradley Beal. And honestly, I just think it'll be good for the Wizards in terms of a rebuild as well. But I really hope Bradley Beal goes somewhere. Like, could it be Miami? Could it be Denver? I guess we'll find out. But I have a feeling that Bradley Beal is likely on the move.
Do you think likely on the move within this season, or do you think probably that's an off season?
I hope this season, but yeah, it could be an off season thing. I'm not completely sure. It's risky. Like, even the James Harden trade is risky, even if you're Brooklyn. But yeah, it's risky. He does have another year after this. But yeah, you would be trading for somebody who there is no guarantees that he would sign with you. He could become an unrestricted free agent. So yeah, it's I'm hoping it happens this year. Like I hope it happens the next few weeks.
Well, because you want to see a guy who's playing at this level too right now. It's like you want to see that in the playoffs. So like,
for sure. Yeah, because the other thing is like I remember just immediately, like one of my gauges for players is how well they do in the playoffs. Like, and if they're doing well in the playoffs at like a young age, I'm super impressed because the playoffs are like just another notch and another level. And Bradley Beal has always done well in the playoffs. He's like, I think from his second year, he was contributing to a playoff team and playing at a really high level. So yeah, he's always been somebody that's been a really impressive player to me. And you would love to see him have that chance with like a kind of a few other guys of his level around him. And as much as Russell Westbrook on certain nights can seem that way, I just don't think it's happening in Washington. Small forward, we have Jayson Tatum. He did miss time with COVID-19, but he is still fantastic and was a first-time All-Star last season. And I just think it's going to be a perennial occurrence with Jayson Tatum. Damantas Sabonis, who was an all-star last season, is my choice at power forward. He does play quite a bit of center, but usually plays power forward next to Miles Turner. So yeah, I have Domas as my power forward. At center, I am going with Bam Adebayo, another player who was a first-time All-Star last year. I know Miami has had their struggles thus far, but I just feel like Bam Adebayo not only deserves to make the All-Star team, but I just think he's going to make the All-Star team. And that Miami, now that Jimmy Butler is back, and we see that while they do still have the same team, like they've had just plenty of injuries and a lot of issues so far. And yeah, I think they just miss Jimmy a ton.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have a feeling that they're going to turn things around and get quite a bit better. They are the 13th ranked team in the Eastern Conference at this very moment, but I am predicting a strong February for the Miami Heat that gets Bam Adebayo into the All-Star game. And then wild card, this kind of broke me to my core because there are a lot of deserving players here. And I decided to go with Khris Middleton, who has been an All-Star. It would be going on 3 years.
Yeah.
And I looked at this year, and yes, Milwaukee obviously not as great as they were the past few years, but Khris Middleton's been fantastic. Like he's shooting like close to 52% from the field, 46% from three, averaging 6 assists per game and 6 rebounds, and outscoring his previous 2 All-Star appearances. So yeah, I still feel like Khris Middleton deserves that. My last wildcard spot I gave to Kyrie Irving, and it kind of breaks me up here because I feel like there is one player that we'll mention in alternates who is incredibly deserving and would be a first-time All-Star. But Kyrie, like, I know he missed some time. Brooklyn may not be good enough to have 3 All-Stars, but like, he's been so good. He is so good. I have a really hard time leaving him off the All-Star team. I just feel like those 3 players are 3 of the best scorers in the NBA. And I have a feeling they're going to have a strong February as well. They did just beat the LA Clippers tonight in a close game. But yeah, I just feel like things are going to come together and they'll get all 3 of those guys on the All-Star team, meaning Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. The player who I had the hardest time leaving off the team is Malcolm Brogdon. And I feel like Malcolm Brogdon is having a fantastic year. Indiana is only a couple games above 500 at this point, but they've still been one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Malcolm Brogdon is playing so well, and I guess Domas is slightly more valuable, but you could probably argue either way there. And it really kind of killed me to leave Malcolm Brogdon off this team. But just in terms of consistency and I think that Kyrie Irving is the better player. But yeah, that was a really tough one. The next couple are pretty tough too. And Ben Simmons, one of the league's best defenders. Philadelphia has been the best team in the Eastern Conference this year. And I feel like Ben isn't having the season he's had in the past. So at least, offensively, obviously we always worry about Ben's long range shooting. And, the fact that you can kind of sag off of him and he can kind of be taken out in a half court game. But yeah, you would have liked to see him do a little bit more individually, especially in times when Joel Embiid is out for games and things like that. But yeah, I feel like Ben is going to have to be he's still somebody that could make the game, but to me he was easier to leave off the team than a player like Kyrie Irving or Malcolm Brogdon. Another player who is playing at a very high level and has made the Hornets a surprising 7th in the Eastern Conference right now, is Gordon Hayward, and playing really, really well this year. He's somebody that I know that you, Jason, had felt like Ben Simmons and Gordon Hayward had good cases for the All-Star team. So just break down like what you feel like just in terms, because I decided to go with Bam Adebayo and Khris Middleton.
Yeah, and again, like all those guys are also kind of like on those. Yeah, I think Gordon Hayward just playing at a pretty strong pace. Leading Charlotte, and then Ben Simmons. I just again like I feel like the NBA always to me just kind of faces into trend, and so I feel like he's just like he's always, even though his scoring's dipped a little bit, but I think Philly's playing pretty well.
Yeah, it's tough to not give Philly that other All-Star. So yeah, I could see that happening. It's just I feel like Bam Adebayo has been playing really well, and I just feel like Miami's going to kind of turn the corner. And Khris Middleton, again, like I know how well Gordon Hayward's playing, but I feel like pretty similar, and Milwaukee is just like the better team and likely deserving of 2 All-Stars. But yeah, certainly players that have cases as well. There are a few more players in the Eastern Conference that have cases. Julius Randle has been playing at a really high level this season, and it just seems like and the Knicks have really surprised. Like, they're definitely like in the thick of things. So Julius right now, 22.4 points per game, 11.1 rebounds, and 6 assists per game. So that like just crazy. Like they're running the offense through him. He's shooting better also. So yeah, he's I think just kind of a casualty of depth there, and of players being on better teams. Zach LaVine is somebody who we've mentioned a few times as being an all-star possibility. I don't think Chicago's good enough, and I think it's another casualty of players on better teams.
Yeah,
and
playing well on bad teams.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he was scoring the 35 points per game that Bradley Beal was, I could kind of see the case for him. But yeah, like I think while he's had a good season and been impressive, I still think that he's probably one of the odd men out. But yeah, we'll move on to another few players that we want to just shout out as possibilities. Tobias Harris you could argue that he's been the second best player on Philadelphia this year. Like he's had a really strong season. And you could argue that Philly maybe, like, if they are still like right now they are up how many games? They're up 2.5 games on Milwaukee. Like there could be an argument that they maybe deserve 3 All-Stars. But yeah, I think it'd be tough to leave some of those other players off. And yeah, I still would probably lean Ben Simmons over Tobias Harris. But yeah, Tobias Harris having a really good season. Jimmy Butler has had COVID-19. I heard he lost 12 pounds, like was having some real complications from it, but still super valuable. And I like, it's just so rough after last year to leave Jimmy Butler off the team.
Yeah, well, like, my opinion on Jimmy, like huge fans, but it's just like for him missing that time, obviously is what's going to affect this. But I mean, I guess you would trade it all again for, that shot at the finals. For sure. And then we want to shout out at least the first half of Sexland, and that is Colin Sexton, who is having a fantastic season. Cleveland's been like a very surprising and fun team, and I don't think many expected them to be at the level that they're at right now. And Colin Sexton is doing his thing, getting buckets. So yeah,
I think he's at least in the conversation to be an all-star. I am sorry, Raptors fans. Like I just don't think that they're doing well enough. And while Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, like, you know, it's tough to leave Pascal Siakam off this team, and Freddie's been playing so well.
I think just the Raptors just having a super down year.
Yeah, like they're not even that far behind the Knicks. Like I guess technically they're on the same level there. Oh, another player I guess we can mention too is like Nikola Vucevic is having another great year, but Orlando's losing a bunch of games. And Vooch doesn't play that same level of defense as, let's say, a player like Bam Adebayo.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And so those are our all-star choices. And JV, you still down for this draft?
I am 100% down because I know that.
All right.
Giannis. So Giannis is my captain. Mikey's got LeBron. Western Conference won the championship last year. You know, LeBron's the champion. He gets to go the first pick.
I guess I'll do first pick for starters and second pick for reserves. We are going to pick as if like who we would draft, and Jason is not going to have to get into the brain of Giannis Antetokounmpo for whoever. He's not taking every African and everybody. He doesn't have to take Khris Middleton with the first pick. So we're just going to do it like that.
Teams to see basically like think of this as like an NBA 2K situation. Who would you want your video game type team out of this bucket of players? So Mikey is going to go first.
Mm-hmm. And the player that I'm gonna choose, just because he's having such a great season. I am going to go with Nikola Jokic.
Oh, dang.
Because he has been like the MVP this year. So that'll be the player that I choose. That's really tough. That's really tough. So yeah, your choice for starter, good sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Giannis. Good length, but I need someone that has length that could also shoot the ball a little bit better. I'm going to Kevin Durant.
Good choice. I somebody that I was seriously thinking about.
I was gunning for Jokic because just like my opinion on most centers is like ugh, except for really like him and kind of Joel.
I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard. Yeah.
Really, just you're.
I'm pretty much just sticking with the West at this point. But yeah, there could be some picks coming up, but yeah. So,
I'm gonna make it so you don't get to complete a Western Conference starting sweep. I'm gonna go with Dame.
Genius.
Because like especially in the game last year too, like he's in games where he can shoot from anywhere on the court. He can do it.
I'm also going to kind of put a little wrench into just Western Conference versus the Eastern Conference and go with James Harden, just so Giannis doesn't have to choose him. So right now, my team, Nikola Jokic, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden. Jason's team, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard. Your third pick.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get a little tougher, but I'm gonna keep kind of like a high octane scoring situation. I'm gonna go with Luka Doncic.
Genius. Damn it. That's
I like
absolutely who I would have taken.
Personally, I like to run, let's run.
Yeah, man. It's a great idea. Damn it, dude. Oh, I'm gonna do something that is like absolutely terrible. But yeah, like I just can't imagine having these two guys together. But I'm gonna go with JoJo. So I'll take Joel Embiid. Have this giant lineup of Embiid, Jokic, LeBron, Kawhi, and James Harden. Okay. You're stuck with Jaylen Brown, man.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take Jaylen Brown as
okay. So your lineup would be Giannis, Kevin Durant, Jaylen Brown, Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard.
Yeah, basically Giannis in the sense of this game would probably be,
Yeah. And Giannis can be a center.
Yeah, and
yeah, that's absolutely fine. And Kevin Durant can be a center.
Totally. And
I think your team could definitely take advantage of my team in many ways. As much as my team has like this insane size and these two dominant centers, but yeah, that would be fun. Not the way that I really saw it going, but the you taking Luka just really threw a wrench. And as well as Jaylen Brown has been playing, I would give it a chance. So yeah, let's move on to the reserves. And you, good sir, have the first choice of reserve.
Yeah, so I've been super guard heavy, but I do need, to get some guys that have some inside presence. So I'm going to go with AD, Anthony Davis, the Brow.
You bastard. How dare you deprive LeBron James of Anthony Davis?
I guess I've played a lot more 2K than you in the past few years. So because these scenarios are on my mind a lot.
Unreal, man. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to go with Stephen Curry.
Always a solid selection, but I am going to come back at that. And I think adding Jayson Tatum to the mix as well, someone that can fit into that 3 to 4 sort of hybrid role.
That's a fantastic pick.
Because I have 80. I have 80 as my.
That would have been my next pick, man.
80 is my bench. My backup alternate center, and kind of mixing that all that in.
A great pick. I am going to take. What do I do? I'm gonna go with. I'll go with Paul George.
Okay.
A few years ago, Paul George almost broke the single game scoring record in the All-Star game. So I'm keeping the Clippers together. Well, I'm sure LeBron would have loved to have played against them, but yeah, keeping the Clippers together.
Sounds good. But, just in case, Dame needs a little rest, I need someone else who can huck up some 3 balls. So I'm going to go with Trae Young.
Good call. I'm going to take somebody who also can huck up 3 balls with the absolute best of them. And I'm going to go with Bradley Beal.
Okay, Bradley Beal does sound like a pretty solid pick there. Kind of makes me look around a little bit, but I'm gonna keep with my I'm gonna actually. I was thinking I had 2 ways I was gonna go, but you know what I'm gonna do, because he's there, he's in this game. I'm gonna go with Zion, because again I think that's someone that can in this situation be kind of a smaller 5.
Yeah.
Give me someone big that can create some mismatch problems.
That's a good call. And so I will go with God, I don't want to deprive you of every center, man, but I'm gonna go with Bam.
Hey, I'm happy with what I have done so far, but obviously since we are going to be putting kind of a run on centers, I'm just gonna take the truest. Well, besides Jokic, the center of the bunch, I'm going to go with Rudy Gobert.
That is a true
I got just a big lumbering guy for some defense.
Yeah. And I'm going to go with Devin Booker. That's just Devin Booker.
You are feeling Devin Booker. I'm going to keep I need to build the front court a little bit. So I'm going to go with Damantas Sabonis as well. Also just, generally just as an homage to his father as well.
Yeah.
Got to give it up to the Sabonis clan.
I am going to take kid Kyrie Irving.
Take an Uncle Drew.
Indeed.
Let's say, John. Now this is where you gotta think. But again, I think this is someone that in the playoffs last year had some monstrous games. think he's going to be ready. I'm going to go with Donovan Spider Mitchell.
Good choice. And I guess that leaves me with Khris Middleton. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we have some teams.
So we put our teams. I'll post that in the description here, and yeah, like let us know who you think would win. Team Michael/LeBron, Team Jason/Giannis. But it's funny because looking at the way we picked this kind of like harkens back to our whole like childhood/lifetime of basketball, because you've always kind of been this like center post play kind of guy.
I did, but man, I got some great cards too.
You definitely did. But it's funny, like you built that team from like that, and then I just built it like it's just like there are a few moments there where I was like, oh man, this is like literally been the same sort of picks we would have had like relatively like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
it's like you go.
I feel like this scenario is like something like because like Giannis would have taken like Joe like probably like first pick.
Oh, for sure. Like, and again, it's basically like who's friends and who you're cool with. But it's like yes, from the perspective of like again like pretend like it's a video
like
game.
You want Embiid versus Jokic, but at the same time like them playing together, like it's the All-Star game, so like anything can happen. And as we saw last year with the Elam ending, like it was so competitive and good, and like you saw how valuable like a player like Joel Embiid was in the All-Star game. And obviously, like I just think Nikola Jokic is going to be a star regardless of whoever he plays for this year, and has been one of the stars in the NBA. Them playing together, I'm not exactly 100% certain it would be like the dominant force that you would hope, or like would optimize either player, but it'd be fun. And I think that's a big part of the All-Star game.
Yeah, no, totally. Again, it's for the fans, and I think back again to like our lifetimes. It's like All-Star game was like a holiday weekend for us. It was like
for sure.
Friday to Sunday night, like we would watch everything, and it was kind of like a big part. So again, like
nostalgia factor is still really big there.
Yeah, like as much as you're like, oh, Saturday night's boring, it's like I still watch it.
I still like watching the Rising Stars Challenge. Like that could be a thing that we I don't know, we'll probably skip that. But yeah, I think if they do have it, I'm gonna watch it. Like I'm interested.
I think our next topic is next week we'll predict the celebrity game.
Yes. Yes.
The one thing that we could all do.
Yes, a thing that they absolutely should not have this year.
Well, it depends on the celebrities.
This is like the perfect year to do something else other than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was really fun to go over, and thank you for indulging me in the draft, Jason.
No, it's great to always like and again in a situation like this, it's so much fun just talking about these players. From only like really just getting like positive perspectives, like appreciating them versus like kind of breaking it down.
Yeah, we didn't have any of like the worst All-Stars this year, and I feel like even Khris Middleton taken with the last pick, like these guys are all good.
Yeah,
they're all super good.
They love the spots. But yeah, so let us know, like, are there any players you missed? Are there any players that you think should be starting that aren't starting? Like, let us know your All-Star thoughts, and of course, let us know who you think is going to win between Team Michael/LeBron or Team Jason/Giannis.
And we decided it's actually Jayson Antetokounmpo-Visenberg, and I am LeBron Visenberg James. The James is after the Visenberg.
Yes, we will put a Viceland poll out on our Twitter, so you can definitely vote along, and so we can really keep track of who you think is going to be better. So if you want to follow this on Twitter, give us a follow at Viceland. You want to follow me specifically, I am at Jay Visenberg. You want to follow Michael, that's at NBA Draft Mikey V. In addition, you can always just shoot us an email. Let us know your thoughts, like anything you want us to kind of talk about, jam about, or just any kind of arguments in basketball that you want to pitch our way. Like let us know. We love talking and engaging. So that's vicelandpod@gmail.com. Mikey, any final thoughts, takeaways?
Andrew started walking. Love it.
My son did start walking, and he does have his little basketball hoop, and he balls on it. Like he gets buckets. So
Okay.
it's 20 years from now, we will be talking about his all-star selection
We can hope.
in the 5'5" and under league. Then he'll playing at his office. But
The Earl Boykins of yeah.
I will say I did meet Earl Boykins once, and I thought that as soon as he retired from the NBA, he should literally just go to like 24-hour fitness and just hustle people like all day. Because you look at him from like like a physical perspective, you're like, he's like my height-ish, he's like not.
Some little
like, yeah, I know guys taller. I know guys who are buffer than him, and it's like none of them can play like him. Like
amazing.
You can just do it. But it's a lot of fun talking All-Star, and we'll catch you guys all next week. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you.